All right, guys. Well, today with that, I want you to remember that little scene with the 2 cups of water and sand in a minute. But there's this one quote that I came across this week. It was a guy, a really famous guy. You've heard his name before because we have a city in Florida named after him. But he was actually a real dude, a Christian named St. Augustine. And he had this great quote. He said this: "Every man, whoever his condition, desires to be happy." So regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from, what you've done, let's be honest, don't we all just want to be happy, right? We all seek that. We all want that, right? That's why we spend our money, or maybe the career you chose is because of that, the transitions that you're doing, the house that you're at, whatever it is, right? We make a lot of our decisions and actions based on that one desire, just to be fulfilled, just to make things a little better, just to be happy. Right? But the problem is not that we're happy, not that we want to be happy. The problem is, like what you saw in the video there, we all got a drinking problem. And it has nothing to do with alcohol or sugary drinks. Okay? None of it. We all have a drinking problem. The problem is not that we're thirsty. The problem is not that we're hungry, that we want to be satisfied. The problem is that our cravings are off. Okay? Now look, I don't know about you. I usually, if I eat dinner really early, and if I'm still up around 10, 11, that's when my stomach starts to kick in, and I was like, hey, I'm hungry still. It's been like 4 hours now. It's been 5 hours since I've eaten. So I get those late night cravings. Anybody get one of those sometimes every once in a while? Okay, I think we all do. And so those are the ones that are the dangerous ones. I know that if I'm not in bed by like 10:30 or 11, I'm going to have to deal with my stomach because it's not going to let me go to bed. I know that. And so the thing is that I have a natural, I'm hungry, right? That's nothing bad there. But the thing is that the hunger triggers a craving, and usually the craving is something that I shouldn't be eating, all right? Especially late at night. Usually my repeat offender is milk and cereal. Okay, it's like a drink and a food at the same time. It's like, I love it. I don't know. It's just, I like it. So I don't know about you. You might have your own thing that you might have or you might crave. But at night, if I don't go to bed early enough, or if I'm not super satisfied, I'll end up eating that. And obviously eating a bunch of sugar and stuff and going right to bed, not the best thing in the world. But the thing is, that's what I'm talking about. Is like we have something natural. We have a hunger and we have a thirst. But our cravings are off. Like our desire, something in our heart is a little bit off. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You know, we've been, last week we kicked off a series called Soul Activity, and really, you know, we're all super busy. We all got a lot that we're doing, especially, like I said, this last month of school, there's so much going on, and then you're now planning for vacations and planning what are we going to do there, and before you realize it's going to be Thanksgiving, and now you got to deal with family, and then Christmas, now you're broke, and whatever. And so it's just one big crazy rat race, right? It goes by so fast. The whole year goes by so fast. But what we're talking about, and the purpose of it, and you see the subtitle is, how do you follow through following Jesus? Like, what does it mean to be a follower of Jesus Christ? So if you've been a follower, you've been, you know, believer for a while, this is going to be great. We're going back to the basics because it's so easy for us, right, to take things for granted or to end up being really busy or doing too much that you neglect the important stuff. I think if you're married longer than a couple of years, you start, or even especially 5+ years, the veterans in the house, they know. I'm like, yeah, you get really busy doing a lot of stuff, and it's really easy to neglect the important stuff, right? So that happens. So my biggest thing, especially if you're a Christian, is I want you to make sure you know what you're doing and that you're not just doing something that God never asked you to do, right? There's a great quote that I think I'm going to say every week by D.L. Moody, another Christian guy. He said this: "You should not fear success. We should never fear failure. Instead, we should fear or be afraid of being successful at something that doesn't matter." I'm going to say that again because I kind of butchered it. So D.L. Moody said, we should never fear failure. Rather, we should fear being successful at something that doesn't matter. And guys, in the end, we know that when it comes to our faith in God, why would we spend so much effort and time and money on something that God never asked or God never wanted? And so we're looking at a verse that just talks about just exactly that. You know, God says, it was Jesus in Mark we've been reading, that he says, look, the most important activity you should do is this: to love. To love God, the Lord your God, and to love others. That's the most important thing. If you're not doing love, then everything else after that kind of going to be a waste. And if it's not motivated by the love of God even more, it's going to be a waste. And so we've been looking at that. Last week we talked about how to love the Lord your God, which is a word that we don't technically use a lot here, especially in America. We don't look at the word Lord in a positive way. We think of lords as what? I don't know, British, monarchy stuff, right? Or that's what, politics, they're called lords and stuff up there. So you might think of that. Also, you might think of lording over someone as like a master, but that's kind of the point. It's like we just can't love God as something. He has to be the Lord, your God. Notice the your part, personal, right? There's a relationship there, the Lord, your God. But also then to call him Lord, it means you have to let him call the shots, okay? God doesn't like to, be a backseat driver, okay? The point is to encourage him and say, Lord, all right, you are not just my God. You're not just a God. You're not just someone I believe in. You're the Lord, my God. And I put my total trust and faith in you. And so I mentioned that last week, which was a rough bottom line, but sometimes I even need to hear this. You cannot call Jesus Lord of your life if you only give him an hour of your life on the weekends, okay? That's not making him Lord of your life. He's just something that you do on the weekends now. But today we're going to talk about the next thing. How do you love the Lord your God with all of your heart? I.e., why we use the music at the beginning, right? And so there's something wrong with our hearts. There's something wrong with our desires, our cravings, because that hunger that's inside of us for happiness and for joy and for fulfillment, guess what, guys? That's natural. That's normal. That's actually a desire in us that God put in us to want more of him. It's a hunger for him. It's a thirst for him. But the problem is, because of sin, our cravings, our taste buds are off. And so instead of reaching out to God, we reach out to other things, much like reaching out to that glass of sand. Now, let me ask you a question. A professional athlete, if he wants to be hydrated, or if you want to stay hydrated, it's going to hit summer really quick. Oh my gosh, it was spring, and it was already hitting 100 degrees. Did you guys catch that? The other day, here, it was like 2 days ago. It wasn't even summer yet, and it's already 100. And so if you wanted to, it's hot outside here in Florida. We know what that's like. It's like every day, whatever. And so almost. And so it's either really hot, kind of hot. That's pretty much our 4 seasons to a certain extent. And so if it's really hot, would you want to reach for a tall glass of sand to satisfy you, to quench you, to fulfill you? No, we would want to reach for that tall glass, ice cold water, sweet tea, lemonade, whatever it is, right? And so because that matters, there's a difference. And so the thing is that we're going to talk about today is that we can be full, excuse me, we can fulfill ourselves and be full with a bunch of stuff, but it just might not hit the right spot because there's inside of us, we are meant to be satisfied and fulfilled ultimately by God. Then everything else that we do, our family, our friends, our career, then we can actually enjoy it even more because we have that one missing piece in it. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's talking about the heart. And trying to see how can we love the Lord our God with all of our hearts. And here's the one bottom line, if we can put it up for today, I'm going to say it a couple of times, is this, that you will never be, and I can say this with all certainty in the sense of I've lived it, but you will never be fulfilled until you are filled with the fullness of God. And that only happens when you begin to follow Jesus. And that's what we're talking about. This is why I want to challenge you guys to tell you guys, follow Jesus, follow him. Have you ever heard someone say, hey, follow your heart? Have you heard someone say that? Talking about water. I think I need one. Sorry. Can you give me love? Can you help me out? Excuse me. So, have you ever heard someone say that? Follow your heart. Well, what I'm going to show you by the end of the day, guys, is probably one of the worst pieces of advice that you'll ever get because guess what? Jail is full of a bunch of people who followed their heart, okay? Jail is there's a bunch of people right now in the hospital that are dealing with health issues because they follow their heart on just living certain ways and eating certain things, doing certain stuff, and there you go. Right? And so following your heart isn't necessarily the most important thing. That's why when we say we follow Jesus, but when you follow Jesus, thank you, babe. When you follow Jesus, you will then learn to be fulfilled because you're going to be filled with the fullness of God. And we're going to look at a story today of a lady who was a chance, Jesus interrupted her normal schedule, her normal day, because there was something that she was looking for and she couldn't find it. And so Jesus went to her. All right, and so let's look at part of the story today. We're going to find this in the book of John. And so some of you guys might have heard the story, you might have remembered it, and we're going to look at things a little differently today. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, give me a drink. That's what Jesus says to her, give me a drink. For his disciples had gone into the city to buy food. So he's outside of the city, sitting at a well, and having this conversation with this lady. The Samaritan woman said to him, how is it that you, a Jew, asks for a drink from me, a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with Samaritans. They don't play nice in the sandbox. Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. And this woman said to him, sir, let me finish it off, have you nothing to draw? You have nothing to draw out of this water with, and the well is deep. So where do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself? And did his sons and his livestock too? Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. He's talking about the well, the water that she's going to go get. Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. And so the woman says to him, Sir, give me this water, that I may not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water again. So the first point I want to make before we keep on going is this. So we see this little interaction. Jesus is literally breaking every single social norm. Guys, in this case, especially even now in modern Middle East, a guy is not necessarily going to interact with a woman that's not his wife out in public. Kind of like a no-no. You don't do that. And so not only that, that's why you can see, Jesus being a man and her a woman, she was a little shocked. But the other one was him being a Jew, her being a Samaritan. They, again, there was some issues there, some social issues, a lot of racial issues, okay? Again, there was problems. And so she was shocked, pretty sure, she had to have known he was a Jew by his accent and by maybe his clothing. You can kind of tell. So, depending on certain people. And so she was a little shocked. But this whole conversation, notice that Jesus starts off by asking her of something, all right? Give me a drink. Give me something, right? Give me a drink. He makes a request, but then turns around and makes an incredible offer, right? He asks her, hey, give me something. But only what she could give was temporary. But he says, you know what? I got something better to give you. And so then here we have this conversation. You can see here she doesn't understand, but by the end of it, she's like, wait a minute. If you're telling me you have something that could satisfy my soul, because that would be awesome. Because look, so that I will never be thirsty again or have to come out and draw water. See, guys, every day I know for us, living here, right, in America, whatever, we're used to amazing technology like plumbing, okay? Like we take that junk for granted all the time. In-house plumbing. Not too long ago, it wasn't like that, okay? And so here, they don't got plumbing inside. So imagine everything you use water for. Cooking, cleaning, hopefully bathing, right? All that. You're going to use water for all those things, right? Water for, I don't know, if you just want to heat stuff up or do this. You use water. We use water for a lot of stuff. And so in this case, you don't have water on tap. You don't have water inside. She had to go outside of the city to go get it. So that means that everything she would get, she would go back, use it, but guess what she would have to do if not later that day or tomorrow? She'd have to go back. Because it doesn't matter how much she would take, it would run out, right? I don't care if it was 1 bucket. I don't care if it was 20,000 buckets. At some point, it's going to run out. And she was saying, if you're telling me there's something that you can give me, that I don't have to keep on running back and forth and having to do this, to make my life easier, to make my life better, and that it would take away this need and satisfaction all at the same time, oh my gosh, I want this. I want this. And here's the one point that I want to make right now is this, that there's a hole in our hearts, right? Again, there's the song. There's a hole in our hearts. There's something inside that we desire to be filled and fulfilled, and this is why we do all that we do. This is why we spend so much money and this and that, trying to find that fulfillment, to try to find that hole. And I don't think it's a coincidence neither that Jesus is talking to her about being fulfilled, and where is he? Talking to fill up the hole in her heart, and where is she? Where are they having this conversation? Sitting next to a well, which happens to be a hole in the ground. Okay? So here it is, a hole in the ground, that this, though, she has to keep on coming back over and over and over and over again. And Jesus is saying, you know what? You also. In essence, he's highlighting there's a hole in your heart, and you have to go outside to satisfy it. But there's something that I can give you that's better. There's something that I can give you that no one else can get. But he's highlighting, there's this fact, she's recognizing there's something wrong with me. You guys know that the Bible, God is super clear in his whole word he's consistent about what the heart is like. Jesus, another time, I'll read it to you. We don't have it up here. Jesus said this, what comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. For inside him, within him, out of man's heart comes evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All of this comes out of your heart. These are evils, come from the inside and make you unclean. Now, this flies in the face of what is nature, what does our society say? Mankind is naturally good. They make the argument that mankind is naturally good. We're born fine, we're born great, we're born good. Okay, and then where does evil come from? It says, well, man is corrupted by the environment, by an external source. We're fine on the inside. It's the outside that messes it all up. And so then you ask the question, well, what makes the environment? What makes the environment on the outside? Well, people do. So how do those people get all evil? Then they were started out good. Where is the beginning to that, right? And so our world says, no, we're fine on the inside. It's the outside. Where's the problem? But God is saying, no, 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 no. Something's wrong on the inside. And you're born this way. The solution is on the outside. The solution is with me. And yes, you might say, Bob, but I have a little nephew. I have a little baby. He's so cute. You know, he's not evil. Man, I've had 3 kids, okay? And so, look, I got 3 kids. You don't have to teach a kid to be selfish, do you? Right? Do you have to teach the kid to say the word mine or no? Okay? Do you have to teach him that? Do you have to teach him to be selfish? No, you have to do what? You have to teach him to share, right? You have to teach him to share. Because the natural inside, the focus is on me, my. Give me your time, give me your money, give me your sleep, give me your food, right? That's how we are as little kids. And so that's what I'm talking about. It's not that we're horrible, Chucky kind of people, whatever. And so it's not like what it's like, all right? But it's that inside there's something wrong, broken, and we're always trying to me. And some of us, we don't grow out of it. And we just kind of always stay that focus, and we try to find it on the inside. But Jesus is saying, no, what comes on the inside, there's something wrong with us from the beginning. Our heart has a hole in it. Notice Paul says this, I know nothing good that lives in me. Paul says, after Jesus, it's my sinful nature. I have the desire, talking about the heart and desires. I have the desire to do what's good, but I can't carry it out. For what I do is not good, I want to do, but the evil I don't want to do, I do, and I keep on doing this. And that might sound confusing, but you all know we do this every day. Right? You know there's certain things that you should do, and it's the right thing to do, but you don't do it, right? You know it's the right thing, but you don't do it. And then there's other things that you know you shouldn't do, and you do it, okay, right? And you do it. So what is that? He's highlighting that. It's like, look, there's a battle inside of me. That's weird. Even right now, if I could if God could say, all right, guys, we're going to scrap the 10 Commandments. You all get to write your own, okay? You all get to do your own personal 10 Commandments. You all write your top 10 rules on how to live life. Go ahead. Guess what? I don't care what 10 rules you would do. I know this for a fact. You couldn't even keep your own rules. Because we all know there's right things and wrong things. And in knowing what's right and wrong, does that help you and, help you be consistent with right and not do wrong? No. We still do it because there's something wrong in our hearts. God, through the prophet Jeremiah, hundreds of years before Jesus, just so you can see the consistency, he said this, the heart is deceitful above all things, beyond cure. Guys, I think it's fascinating that we can be deceived by our own hearts, and sometimes we're the last ones to figure it out. That's crazy. That's crazy that everybody will tell you, hey, you don't know what you're doing. Hey, that's not the right one. Or, hey, that person, you don't know. It's all fine. It's okay. It's not that big of a deal, right? We can be the last ones to find out that we deceived ourselves, right? Because that's what's amazing about our heart and why it's so dangerous to say, follow your heart. But this lady here, Jesus is talking about, hey, I got something for you that you can't find anywhere else. And it's going to satisfy not only your natural thirst, but it's going to quench your soul. And what does she say? Oh my gosh, this sounds pretty good. It sounds like an infomercial, okay? I was like, act now and you'll get this, on top of, I was like, okay, I'm going to act now. Well, what phone number do I need to call to get this? And so let's read on what Jesus says. Okay, she says, I'm thirsty. And so Jesus says to her, all right, fine, you want it? Do this first. Go call your husband and come here. And the woman answers him, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you're right in saying that. True. I have no husband. It's right that you said I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you are with right now is not your husband. What you said is true. So now the conversation gets awkward, because Jesus just drops a bomb on her and pretty much tells her, hey, yeah, I know something about you. I know your secrets. I know your past. She's like, hey, I want this living water. All right, great, but first, we have to address something. Okay, you want to drink this, that's great, but we got to go to this first. All right, and so notice, guys, that Jesus immediately goes from a well and starts talking about her guys, her relationships. And here's the reason. Because not only is she having to literally go to a well to get the water for her everyday life, but you know what she is revisiting over and over and over again to fulfill her life? Relationships. In this case, she's going to men. She's running to men to fulfill her, to what she's missing. That's what she's doing. She's running to the well of relationships and of guys to satisfy her heart. That's what she's doing. And that brings me to my second point. We all have a hole inside of our hearts. And you know what we try and do to fix it? We try and fill that hole by digging it deeper. That doesn't make sense. Think about that. If I have a hole right now and I want to fill that hole, am I going to ever fill that hole by using the same dirt from inside the hole? Right? I'm going to go in, dig the dirt out from inside the hole, and dump it back in. Am I ever going to fill that hole again? No. It's a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted effort. And that's what Jesus is highlighting right now. That's what she's doing. She's revisiting this hole and digging it deeper. Jeremiah 2:13, I want to show you this because this is the problem on why we can't do this. Talking about Jeremiah again, hundreds of years before Jesus, and what did he offer this lady? Living water, right? Hundreds of years before Jesus spoke that, God spoke the same words through the prophet Jeremiah. Look at this. Jeremiah 2:13, I'll read it for you because it's not here. It says, my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, watch these words, the fountain of living water. Hundreds of years, God is saying, I am the fountain of living water. And then here Jesus is saying to this lady, hey, I am that fountain of living water. And so this lady, I'm pretty sure, like most Jews and Samaritans that lived in that time, they probably have read the prophets. They grew up, that was their school, this was their textbooks. So I'm pretty sure when Jesus said living water, she's making a connection. She's making a connection of what God had said hundreds of years before in Jeremiah. I was like, wait a minute, you can offer me that? What God was talking about once? Jesus says they've done two evils, God says in Jeremiah 2:13. They've forsaken me, the fountain of living water, and they've dug up their own cisterns. They've dug up new wells, broken cisterns. Listen to these words, that cannot hold water. It's like they've got perfectly what you've left me to go dig up your own holes and dig up your own wells, but those wells can't hold water. You know, that brings me back to when I was a kid. You ever tried to do sandcastles? Right? You ever try to dig a moat? Right? And you go I used to do this. I used to try to dig a moat. I see it on TV all the time. I want a moat. You know, like little people with little G.I. Joes can float on or whatever. And I want a moat. And so I would dig my moat, go get a big bucket of water from the ocean, dump it in, and I would have a moat for like 3 seconds. Right? Why? Because the sand is too thin, right? The water just goes right through. I'm pretty sure some of us have done that. That's what Jesus is talking about. That's what God was talking about through Jeremiah. He's like, man, I have everything that you need. You don't have to go far. It's right here. But what you're doing is instead trying to dig your own holes, and those will not hold water. Because our hearts are broken. Our hearts can't hold anything that is not what God intended. It's not. And so that's what he's saying. And he's saying, look, if you just came to me, I am that living water that you need. And Jesus is highlighting to this lady, yeah, you want this living water, but I'm telling you, you're trying to find in relationships that life. Guys, look, we do that all the time. Maybe for her it's relationships. Some of us might be relationships. For others, we try to run to different things and maybe try to escape life. You know, we try to run to TV, binge Netflix this, right, or whatever, to maybe forget about what we got to do or forget about our responsibilities. Some of us lose ourselves in our job because our job is that well to try to give us that hope and that joy and the forgiveness or whatever it is, that purpose in life. For some, maybe because we've messed up our lives so much, we run to things that try to alter and try to help us to forget it, right? Like substances and stuff. We just want enough of it, so everything just goes away, even though it's going to be there when you sober back up or whatever, right? That's what we do. We're running to different things and never being satisfied. And that's Jesus highlighting that one thing. This is what you're doing. You can't find that living water yet because you keep on running to a different well. That's not God. It's never going to be enough. Just like if I want to fill a hole by digging and using the dirt from inside the hole, it's never going to be enough. I'll give you one last quote, and this one was too good not to share today. Charles Spurgeon, a Christian preacher, said this. He said, if you say, oh, I'm going to paraphrase, I just need a little more. Just a little more of this, just a little more of that, just one more. If I could just have a little more of this, then I will be satisfied. Spurgeon says, if you ever just say, if I need a little bit of this, I'll be satisfied, you are making a big mistake. Because if you are not content with what you have, you will not be satisfied if it were doubled. And that's the truth, right? If you are not satisfied right now with what you have, you're not going to be happy if it was doubled because it's never going to be enough. You're always going to want more and more and more. Just like the lady, you're going to get your water and eventually the water's going to run dry. And then you got to go back and it's going to run dry. And she's gone through how many husbands? Did you read? 5, and when she's on husband number 6, okay? So we don't know if she's kind of like off them all and like collecting insurance and stuff like that. You know how sometimes you see those like scary people, those movies like that, right? Just kind of, identity fraud and all that. We don't know if that's what she's doing. I doubt it. But you know what I believe? I believe that she's going to the first guy, and she was, oh man, what this guy was telling her and saying, all that butterflies, oh, this is awesome. And then she gets in this relationship, and then the butterflies aren't there anymore. He stops doing what he used to do. She's bored. I'm not in love with you anymore, whatever. And then, this guy's saying it, so she jumps from guy to guy. She's tapping the well, running dry, going to the next one. Tapping another well, running dry, going to the next one, going to the next one, going to the next one. And she hasn't figured out by 5 guys that, okay, maybe I should try something different. Nah, because she's on number 6 right now. And Jesus had to highlight this. Now, we're not going to read the rest, but this is the last part that I'm going to mention before we wrap up is this. The hole in your heart can only be made whole by Jesus. And that's why Jesus wanted to bring this conversation to this guy, because this relationship, what she was doing was a problem. Now, it would be funny if it's a lot to read right now, so we're not going to do it, but I don't know if you've ever been caught in an awkward conversation. You ever been like at a party or at somebody's house and somebody brings something up and you're like, oh, hey, so you watched TV last night? Did you talk about something else, please? It's like, we got to change the subject because it's really weird or awkward. And, sometimes, I don't know, some people don't like situations like that or just get up and leave. And so here, she felt a little awkward because when Jesus called her out on this, literally she changes the conversation. She's like, hey, can I talk to you about something? And she goes into this debate that the Jews and Samaritans would always have. And it was about worship. It was like, hey, the Jews say you're supposed to worship in Jerusalem. Us Samaritans, we have our own temple. We like to worship here. So what do you think about that? Okay, she's trying to change the conversation. She doesn't like the fact that Jesus called her out on something. But what's amazing is she just walked into the perfect trap. Because the topic of conversation she chose was exactly just kind of really highlighted what Jesus was trying to say. And it was this. Because you know what Jesus said? Look, I know you guys have this issue. The Jews say you got to worship here. Samaritans say, no, you don't have to. You can go there, or you can do different stuff. But Jesus said this, ultimately. I'm going to paraphrase. Where you worship and how you worship doesn't matter if the object of your worship is wrong. That's what it was. It's like where you worship and how you worship doesn't matter if the object of your worship is wrong. Because here, let's assume, she looks like she knows what she's talking about. So let's assume that she would go every Sabbath, and she would go on Saturday on, let's say like we're doing. All right, we're going to church once a week. We're praising God. We're bringing our offerings. We're doing this. We're doing that. Right? We're listening from God's word. Let's say she would do that all the time. She's saying, hey, this is what we do. What do you do? Who's right? Right? But Jesus pretty much saying, look, it doesn't matter if you get the place right and the location right if the object of your worship is wrong. Because apparently, you might be doing everything right on Saturday, but you're worshiping God on the outside, but you're looking and running to men on the inside. You see, that's so she walked into this perfectly. Because that was the problem. It's not so much the outside, it's that inside. She's worshiping God on the outside, maybe doing everything right, but she's worshiping relationships and worshiping men in this case. Running to men to give her what only God can give her. She's doing that on the inside. And she walks right into this. And that's when Jesus says, look, no, see, there's going to be a time when you don't have to worry about where and when, because things will be all right. And she was like, oh, yeah, we've heard that's a Messiah. He's coming. He'll make things right. He'll show us what to do. And that's when Jesus finishes off the conversation and says, I'm right here. That's me. I'm right here. I'm that Messiah you're talking about. I'm that same God who Jeremiah spoke of living waters. That's me. I'm that Messiah. I'm right here. He wanted to make the hole in her heart whole. What she was, instead of running to men, Jesus was inviting, run to me this time. Come to me, and I'll show you what you're missing. And notice, remember what he said before about the living water? He said, if you come to me, I'm going to give you living waters that go from the inside out. Did you catch that? It says, it will let me see, you will have asked, and I will give you living waters. The water that I will give you will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. This is not something that's coming from the outside in. This is key. It's coming from the inside out. It's coming from the inside out. So what's the benefit of that? Because it's not from the outside in, that doesn't mean you don't have to run to church on the weekend to kind of, soak up and, all right, I got my issues for the week, or got all I need for the week now. Thanks, Pastor, I'm good. I'll see you back on Wednesday, or see you back next Sunday. You don't have to run to anything to get it. It says it's from the inside. It's a naturally produced. Again, God says, I am that fountain. So it's like you connecting to the tap. It's like you directly connecting in is right there. And the best way, I think, that in nature, the one that reminds me the most is of a spring. Here in Florida, we have a lot of them. Have you guys ever visited? Anybody here lived in Florida long enough to visit a natural spring? You know, we got like Weeki Wachee Springs, Genie Springs. What's another one? A few more. Silver Springs. Hey, we got a lot of them. Have you ever been to one and seen one? I mean, it's awesome. It was an amazing experience. I got to go to one. And what is a spring? But a hole in the ground where water is coming, filling it from the inside out. That's a spring. And if you look at it, it looks like gash marks, right? It looks like someone just went through and just ripped the ground, ripped rock, and it just looks rough. You know, it doesn't look pretty, right? It's just this gaping holes in the ground. But out of those holes is water is being pumped in by the, millions of gallons, just constantly, constant. And it's pure water. I mean, I went in there one time. Oh, my hair never felt so silky. Woo! I mean, just sitting in that, swimming in that, I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, this is great. Felt awesome. I mean, it was just good stuff. You can drink it. It felt amazing. I'm here drinking the water. I was like, you can drink it. I'm like, really? It's like connected to the river. She's like, no, it's safe. Okay. So I'm drinking it. Oh, it tasted amazing. It tasted so good. But then, like, I looked up, and there was some dude bathing in it, too. I'm like, oh, I was like, I just drank it. Oh, he's like all lathered up and like body wash and stuff. I'm like, I was like, oh, but he was downstream, so he was okay. I was fine where I was, but it tasted great, right? But that spring, it's coming from the inside out. And guess what? That water couldn't come out if there wasn't a hole, right? And God is saying, yeah, I want to give you something, but it's not, you don't have to run to it like a different well. No, I'm going to fill that hole in your heart. And it comes from the inside. It comes from the inside out. And not only will it fill that, to me, guys, look, we are all born with that, a God-shaped hole and a God hunger. But because of sin, we run to different things to try to satisfy it. We try to run to different things to fulfill it. But it never, sometimes it's like the more we fill it with things that aren't God, it's like the hole gets bigger and deeper. God is the only thing that can fulfill it. He's the only thing that can fulfill it. But what's amazing is that he doesn't fill it from the outside. He fills it from the inside. It's wherever you go. It's constant. It is one with you. It's not something separate. It is, you are made one with this God. It is that close. And what's amazing is not only will he fill that God-shaped hole, but every time your heart experiences a new wound, somebody breaks your heart, or maybe you let yourself down. You let someone else down and it hurts. Because you realize how, the disappointment and the mistakes and this and that. What's amazing is that living water, when there's a hole or when somebody does something to you and it causes another hole here and there, that water rushes through, bringing healing and fulfilling that as well. And so this is more than just feeling good about yourself. This is finding true fulfillment, true happiness. And Jesus is saying, if you come to me, I will give you. And you know what's amazing? She said this one thing. After this conversation, when Jesus says, hey, that's me, she actually takes off running and goes back. And in John 4:7, around closer to 18, the whole section, she's now telling everybody this amazing phrase. Hey, come and see who told me everything I've ever done. And then asks this interesting question. Can this be the Christ? So first off, what is she? Because she still sounded excited about this living water at first. But now what is she talking about? She's saying, hey, you got to hear this. This guy knows everything about me. Could this guy be the Messiah? Could this guy be the one that we are all waiting for? You know what's amazing about that statement? Sometimes you got to think about it. What is she so shocked about? I think when God revealed to her, when Jesus revealed at the very end, I am that Messiah. I am he. What shocked her was that, wait a minute ago, you just offered me life. You just offered me eternal life. You offered me to be restored, to be connected. You offered me what only God can offer. And then you told me everything that I've ever done. You knew exactly who I was before you even offered me eternal life, and you still did it. And you're still hanging out with me, and you're still talking, and you're saying, yeah, that's me. I'm still here. I'm here. And guys, what's amazing about that statement for her, and this is good news for us. See, God knew everything about this lady, every little dirty little secret and every big mistake she ever made. God knew everything about her, yet still loved her. He still loved her, still was willing to give her this life. And guys, the good news for us is this. You can't hide anything from God. God knows every little thing about you. He knows every little thing there. And you know what? Despite knowing you exactly who you are, because maybe some of us, we're really good at hiding, even for our own selves. But God knows everything. And not only does he know everything, he still loves you with everything that he has, regardless, despite it all. And is offering you the same thing he's offering this lady. A chance to find true happiness, a chance to find true fulfillment that'll give a greater purpose to everything else that you do. Because without that, what's the point? Right? We were talking to some of the high schoolers this last Wednesday. It was like, hey, why are you in school? To learn. Okay, why are you learning? To go to college. Why are you going to college? To get a job. Why do you want to get a job? To make money. Why do you want to make money? They hit a wall right there. Okay, they had no clue what to say after that. Why do you want to make money? To buy a house, to buy a car, so my kids can go to school and learn and make money. I was like, this weird round and round thing. I'm like, well, hey, you know that there's a thing. There's a lot of people right now driving in cars, heading to jobs that they hate, to pay for homes they can't afford, okay? Why? Why do we do those things? Why do we do those things? See, guys, with God, he gives us all of the little things that we could be missing. And he knows everything about us. He knows that we don't deserve it. He knows that we can't earn it, yet he still offers everything to us. There's not one person, guys, that is too far gone to be lost. And so here's how, if you want to learn, how do you love the Lord your God with all of your heart? Because that's what Jesus said a while ago. He said, you want the most important activity is to love the Lord, and here's how you do it. Love the Lord with all of your heart. How do you love the Lord with all your heart? By handing it over to him. Okay, you love the Lord your God with all your heart by handing it over to him. And when you hand it over to him and follow Jesus, you will be then fulfilled by the fullness of God. Because everything else, guys, might make you full. It might make you full for a while. But guess what? It's not going to last. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go back because it's not going to last. Or even if it doesn't last, then it's going to be like the other thing. Like, you have too much of something, and now it's like that threshold when you just have too much Chinese food, and you're like, oh, you immediately regret it for like the rest of the afternoon or whatever it is, right? It's like there's a level of being just full and just, this was not enough. No, see what God is saying, if you follow me, you hand over your heart to me, holes and all, healthy, hurting, whatever it is, healthy, you send it to me. You give him, you hand over your heart, and I will make your heart whole. See, all who believe in Jesus, guys, and follow him, like we were saying, will find true fulfillment by being filled with the presence and the love of God. And the reason why men and women are able to love the Lord, and here's one thing here's why you can love the Lord with your heart, is because God loves you with all of his. God loves you with all of his. And the spear that went through his heart while he was on the cross is proof of this. And by it, your heart and my heart can be happy.